Hey
Hi, sir.
guys, can you all hear me?
Yes, Suresh.
Can you please confirm if you can see my screen, guys?
Yes.
Cool. So, a very good morning and good evening, everyone. Firstly, apologies for canceling a couple of sessions yesterday and day before. Um, I was not well and hospitalized on day before yesterday night, so I have to cancel it. Once again, apologies, guys.
I hope you are all right now, Suresh.
Yeah, I'm feeling better, Bhargav. Thank you.
Hope you're doing good.
Yeah,
Feel better.
cool. So,
Suresh, before joining the session, I
mhm,
want to ask you a doubt. So previously, I
sure,
was
Bhargav.
going through your recordings.
Mhm.
Uh, sorry. So previously, I was going through your recordings, and I saw
Mhm.
in a session that you have initialized at a time three strings in a single statement. I just want to know whether we can do for all types like that or just for strings.
All the data types, Bhargav.
All the data types. You can all
All the
initialize
data
it at the
types.
same time. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
variables. They're variables. It doesn't matter whether they're strings, ints, or floats.
Okay. Okay. I
Okay.
just want to ask. Thank
Yeah, and it could be a combination of these three too.
you. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Suresh. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions, guys, before we move into today's topic? Okay. So today I'm gonna start arrays. I mean, we'll not be deep diving into arrays. We'll try to understand what arrays is. Just to make you understand lists better, but we'll be focusing on the collection data types which we have in Python: lists, dict, map, sorry, list, dict, tuple, and then set. Okay, so we'll get started with arrays. First, we'll try to understand what arrays is, what it has to offer, and how arrays are different from lists, and then we'll get into the hands-on things. Any idea, guys, what exactly an array is?
It is a collection of values in of the same data type.
Yes, that's correct. So, any other directions or dimensions you want to add? Anybody else?
Uh, we can access the elements through a single variable.
Correct. Any other thoughts? Okay, so whatever the answers I have got from our participants, they're absolutely spot on. They're all correct. Okay, but we'll try to deep dive and understand what exactly an array is and what it has to offer for us. Okay, and we'll also talk about drawbacks of an array. Okay, so first things first, let's say if we have to create three different variables. Okay, or maybe want to store three different values, we will create three variables with what are the knowledge we have so far, like a is equals to 10, b is equals to 20, and then c is equals to 30. And internally what happens is in your RAM, three memory locations will be created for each of these variables and the values will be stored in their respective memory locations. Something like this, this is a and this is b and then this is c. Okay. So why do we have to create three different variables for storing three different values? Can we create one single variable and then store all of them in the same variable? Answer is yes. That's where arrays would come into picture. Okay. So this is what happens when you create an array, guys. Okay. So A, B, and C, generally we represent array for our understanding in this way: 10, 20, and then let's say 30. and let's say this array name is A, and this is what happens internally. It will create 3 memory locations and store these 3 values A, B, and then C, what was earlier, but now all these variables are referred as A, and this A would refer to the first element in the array. This A would refer to the first element in the array. Okay. Now here comes the important characteristics, guys. So first things first is continuous memory location, continuous memory allocation. So what do I mean by continuous memory allocation here? So all your elements in an array are stored next to each other in your RAM, as simple as that. I mean to say the consecutive memory locations. Okay. So for example, let's say this is some A, memory location is some X. So this will be in X plus 2 and this will be in X plus 4. Something like this. Okay. So there are memory locations which are next to each other. And the second point I wanted to discuss about an array is homogeneous. All the elements that are stored in your array are of same data type. Okay, meaning they are all homogeneous. The array will be storing all the elements of the same data type. It cannot store 2 integers, 2 strings, 1 float. No, it won't happen. Okay. And number 3, it is ordered. Okay. So whenever you're reading something, right, there will be a underlying understanding, guys. So for example, when I say ordered, what we can interfere or what we can infer in the first go, maybe the elements are all ordered. Okay. Yes, that is correct. But the meaning of this for a collection, whenever we see some collection as an ordered collection, we can access elements using indexes. So what do I mean by that? I'm taking the same array over here. I'm taking the same array over here. Okay. And then let's say I'm storing 4 different values, 10, 20, 30, and then 40. And then let's say the array reference is A here. Okay, each of these elements can be accessed by using indexes. Index is always a zero-based index, positive. 0, 1, 2, and then 3. Okay, so negative indexing is also supported, which is -1, -2, -3, -4. So boss, how do we use indexes to access these elements? Let's say if you do A of 0, it will give us 1. Sorry, A of 0, it will give us 10. Okay, when you do A of 1, it will give us 20. And then A of 2 will give us 30. And A of 4 will give us 40. Okay, and the same is applicable for negative indexing as well. A of -1 will give us 40. A of -2 will give us 30. A of -3 will give us 20. And A of -4 will give us 10. Okay, so whenever you see a particular collection or a sequence data type to be ordered, this is what you get out of it. Okay, so again, we'll have to understand the order in which these elements are stored is really important, because whenever you do A of 1, you should always get 20. Okay, so when you do A of 1, maybe at one point in time, you get 20, and at another point in time, you get 30. No, that won't happen. These are ordered. The order in which the elements are stored is very important, and it supports indexing. Okay, so using these indices, you should be able to retrieve the element, whatever you want. Okay, and then number 4 is iterable. Okay, so any guesses, guys, what exactly iterable meaning is?
It's like when you are using loops, you can the index value sequentially changes. So it will be the
Correct.
index. Yeah.
Okay, so that's correct, guys. So iterable, I'll tell you in a very layman terminology. So basically, you will be able to access all these elements using a for loop. As simple as that. Then boss, how can I do it? This is how you can do it. For a in, okay. Maybe not a, I'll be using I, iterative variable in a. The a is nothing but your array name. This a is nothing but your array name. And this I is nothing but your iterative variable. Okay. If I do print of I, so first things first, let's try to understand how many times this loop will be iterating. Let us assume this is the A we have. It has 4 elements and this loop would be iterated 4 times. Okay, and you don't have to do anything about it, guys. You just give your array and your loop, your for loop would be able to understand how many times it will have to iterate because A is iterable. Okay, and in every iteration, this I will have the respective element. So for example, in the first iteration, it will print 20. In the second iteration, it will print, sorry, in the first iteration, it will print 10. In the second iteration, it will print 20. Third iteration, it will print 30. Fourth iteration, it will print 40. That's it. So this loop would be iterated 4 times, and in every iteration, the iterative variable will actually get the actual value. Will get the actual value. Okay. So this is the meaning of iterable. Okay. And the fifth one, mutability. So whenever we are discussing any collections, right, or any sequence data type, these are the points or these are the properties which we'll start with. Okay, so number 5 is all about mutability, changing the values. So if you ask me, boss, will I be able to add an element or delete an element or maybe change an element? Answer is yes, you can do. Okay, in Python, arrays are mutable. Okay, now looking at these characteristics or properties, can you pick any disadvantages? Just give it a thought, guys.
Indexes will be changed.
For
Remaining items.
you mean to say when you are changing a
When we are
value?
removing like A of 3. So
Hmm.
rest of the
Okay. So, I mean, what made you think that is a disadvantage?
value address will be changed, right? Now you have
Yes.
to access with the new index.
Okay, we'll get back there. Any other disadvantages you are seeing, guys?
It won't support multiple data types variables.
Correct. Any other disadvantages?
A continuous memory allocation.
Yes.
When the arrays get too big and they need to be in a continuous memory allocation. So
Correct. So continuous memory allocation is another disadvantage, guys. Okay, so it's boon and bane both the ways. Okay, so whenever you're storing some less number of values, having continuous memory allocation, it's always good. Okay, but when you want to store huge number of elements, okay, it's not viable. I mean, not every time you might get the continuous memory allocations available. Okay, but maybe if they are not continuous, there could be memory available. What do I mean to say is, you know, just imagine two scenarios. You have this is scenario 1 and you have another scenario here. Okay, in scenario 1, you want to store some 1,000 values. Okay, so where you need 1,000 continuous memory available. Okay, and in scenario 2, you're storing 1,000 values and you can store wherever memory is available. It need not be continuous. Let's say you store one value here, second value here, third value somewhere here, fourth value somewhere here, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, so on and so forth. Wherever is memory is available. So what do you think will be more memory efficient? First one or second one?
Second one.
Obviously second one, right? Because you don't need 1,000 continuous memory here. Okay, you can fit in your values wherever memory is available. Okay, so this is another disadvantage of an array. Okay, so to overcome these two things, we have something called as list. We have something called as list.
Can you please explain again? I can't get it. About memory allocation.
Simple, Lakshmi. Assume, you know, 3 of your friends are traveling to some place in a metro. Okay, so if 3 of you want to sit together in one seat, you might not get an available seat. But let's say if 3 of you want to sit wherever some place is available, maybe one of you sitting in the first row, one of you sitting in some mid row, and one of you sitting in wherever the place is available. So which one do you think would be efficient? If 3 of you want to sit together only where only 3 places are available, you will end up standing.
Yes.
Okay, so the same example here. So when you want 1,000 continuous memory location, 1,000 is just a number I have taken. Okay, that memory might not be available because your memory would also be consumed by other processes that are running, right? You might end up getting, memory exceeds exception. Okay, but when you are okay to fit these values wherever memory is available, it will be more efficient. Make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
that means it's a continuous memory allocation is not possible in the arrays.
not needed. Not need non-continuous memory location is not possible in arrays.
Okay.
Okay, so these two challenges will be overcome in using a list, guys. While using a list. Okay, so that's a major difference. So if you take a list, for example, maybe you want to store the same 5 values. I'm going to take some 5 values. So maybe I'm calling this as a list L, and you have 5 values where you have 10, 20, 30, 40, and then 50. Okay, so let's say you can store 10 here, 20 here. Again, you don't have control on this, guys. You just create a list, and your Python will end up storing these values in memory locations wherever is available. Somewhere around 40, and then somewhere around 50. Now, again, this L variable would be pointed to the first variable. Okay, so this is a major difference. When it comes to array, it's always continuous memory location, and when it comes to list, you don't really need to have continuous memory location. Okay, now you might ask me, boss, since it is continuous memory allocation, array was able to identify the next element, but in the case of list, it's not, right? Because you're pointing to the first element and all the remaining elements are not stored in continuous memory locations. So how can we identify the remaining elements? So basically, with first element, there will also be address of the second element where it is stored. Second element, you'll have address of third, and with third element, you'll have address of four. With fourth element, you'll have address of five. This is the concept of linked list. Okay, so you'll have all the addresses that are maintained along with your elements. Okay, so it doesn't really matter. This is virtually equivalent to continuous memory location for a developer. Okay, so you don't really have to know where your second element is stored or third element is stored to access. You will be accessing the same way you're accessing elements in an array using indexes. So list also supports indexes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then -1, -2, -3, -4, and then -5. And the second best part of a list is being heterogeneous. Okay, So list is heterogeneous. Okay, meaning you can store elements of different data types. You can store one int, you can store a couple of strings, you can store a Boolean value and probably some float values in the same list. List allows you to do that. I repeat, list allows you to do that. Okay, and list is also iterable, just like arrays, meaning you can access all these values using for loop. Okay, so for example, you take the same list, you can do for element in L, which is list. If you do print of element, this loop would be iterated 5 times, and every time it iterates, it will print the respective element. First iteration, it will print 10, second iteration 20, third iteration 30, fourth iteration 50, and fifth iteration 50. Okay. And list is also mutable, meaning you can add an element, you can delete an element, you can insert an element at a particular position. Okay. You can delete an element by value, by index. Okay, so by index, when I say by index, by position, maybe you want to remove the third element, you can do that. Maybe you want to remove the last element, you can do that. Or maybe you want to remove an element with value 40, you can do that. Okay, so you can add an element, you can remove an element, you can add at a particular position, or maybe you want to modify a particular element. Yes, you can do that. Okay, so all these operations are supported. So lists are more powerful than arrays. Okay, and secondly, arrays are not much used in Python, guys, unlike other programming languages. Okay, the reason being, these shortcomings, and the second one, it doesn't support two-dimensional. Okay, then you might ask me, boss, then how do we deal with those cases? So we have arrays in in NumPy. Okay, so there is a module called NumPy in Python, and in NumPy we create everything as an array. It can be 1D array, 2D array, 3D array. Okay, it supports multi-dimensional arrays, and then it's far more powerful than normal arrays because it supports all the mathematical functions, trigonometric functions, whatever you see in your calculator, and then again, it is predominantly used in machine learning algorithms, guys, or when you are writing some code for data science and ML. Okay, so for now, let's not get there. NumPy will stick to our list here. Okay, so going forward, what are the collections we are going to discuss, be it list or dict or set or frozen set or tuple? You will see some common functions, guys, because all of these collections will help you storing multiple values in a single variable. Multiple values in a single variable, they tend to do some common functions too. So for example, getting the size of a collection, or maybe adding an element, or maybe removing an element, or maybe updating an element, right? And then iterating through all the values and using membership operator. So these are all common set of functions which you do on top of all these values. And there are some immutable collections too. When I say immutable, they cannot be changed. For example, tuple, where you cannot add an value or where you cannot remove an value or you cannot change a value which is already there. Okay, so we'll try to understand all these things. Okay, so each collection have its own set of characteristics, guys, based on which we'll be choosing what collection we will be using. Okay, now let's get into some hands-on with lists. Okay, but before we go there, any other questions? If you want, you can probably take a screenshot of this. But any questions, guys? Okay, I'll take that as a no.
Suresh,
Yeah, please, Lakshmi.
sorry, can you explain this what is the heterogeneous?
Heterogeneous.
Can you explain one more time?
It's about storing values of different data types. So in a list, you can store couple of string, one integer, couple of floats, and one Boolean variable in the same list. They need not, all the elements need not be of same data type.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, cool.
So it's reverse
Oh,
to the homogeneous. So it's Harris
correct,
supports homogeneous, so it's a heterogeneous. Okay, thank you.
correct. Okay.
One
So
quick
some,
question.
yeah, please.
So we can get the memory location of that particular element in the list as well as the array, right?
Yes, you can. So you can use the same function which we have discussed earlier and pass this value. You should be able to get.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So lists in Python. Okay. Here are few pointers. A list is a data type which holds ordered collection of elements. A list is also ordered. That is the reason it is supporting indexes. Okay. Items can be of various data types, which we have discussed just now, heterogeneous. And an element inside a list can be another list, multidimensional. Okay. An element inside a list can also be a list. We call them as nested lists. Okay, which I'll be showing you in some of the examples. And we use square brackets for creating a list. Items in list can be accessed by index, and they are zero-based index, which we have discussed. And you can go for a list when order is important and duplicates are allowed. This is another important point while differentiating these collections. Okay, so in a list, you can store duplicate values. There are some collections like set or a dict which doesn't allow you to store duplicate values. Okay, but in list and also in tuple, you can store duplicate values. Okay, so in list, duplicates are allowed and lists are iterable. So whenever you see this word iterable, you know, it means you can access all the values in this list using a for loop. Okay, now we'll get started. Let's create our first list. I'm gonna create a list with name animals. I'm gonna store some values. Lion, and then tiger, and an elephant. Three values. And like I do every time, whenever I'm introducing something new, I'm gonna start with type. Type of animals will give you list, and you can access the individual values or individual elements using indexes. So animals of 0 would give you lion, animals of 1 would give you tiger, animals of 2 would give you elephant. Okay, and each of these values are string data types. So animals of 0 is a string, animals of 1 is tiger, animals of 2 is elephant, and all of them are string. You can check the same using the type. Okay, and maybe I want to change the value of tiger to cat. This is how I can do it. Animals of 1 is equals to cat. Okay, so you can use this assignment operator to update a value, guys. Now, if you do animals of 1, it will show cat. When I do animals, when I print animals, it will show lion, cat, and elephant. Okay, so this is how you can update an existing value using an assignment operator. And like we have discussed, we can use a negative indexing as well. Animals of -1 will give you the last element. Animals of -2 will give you last but one element. And let's say you are trying to assign a value to the index which is not there in your list. So for example, we have only 0, 1, and 2 because this animals list is having only three values, and you are trying to assign a value for the fourth index or the fourth position with index 3, which is not there. It will throw an error. List assignment index out of range. Then was how can I access how can I add an element? You can do that using append function. You can do that using append function. Okay. And one more heads up, guys. I mean, it's on behavioral aspect. Okay. So generally, this is what I observe from most of my participants when I'm teaching collections. Because in collections, whatever it is, it could be list, it could be dict or anything, you know, you tend to feel that I'm going a little faster. Okay. But that's not true, right? I end up teaching you a lot of functions in one session. Okay, because here you'll have to understand, what the function is doing. So for example, for adding an element, you have three different functions: extend, append, and then insert. Similarly, for deleting an element, you have three different functions. And then we talk about aggregate functions. We talk about iterating through the loop list. Okay, you feel like, a lot of stuff has been taught. Okay, answer is true. Lot of stuff has been taught, but I'll never go fast. Okay, you have any question, you ask. And secondly, remove that thought from your mind of memorizing all these functions. That won't happen. That will never happen. Okay, so you will have to, Google for what are the function you want. Okay, so remove that burden from your mind, thinking that you'll have to memorize all the things. Just focus on whether you're able to understand this particular function, what it is doing. The rest is on Google. Okay, hope you are with me.
One quick question, Suresh.
Mhm.
So if you want to add that particular element dog in particular index, can we do that?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Okay. So these questions, what I request you is, take a note of these questions, guys. I mean, let me complete the topic and then we can discuss if that particular thing is missed. Okay, because all whatever possibilities are there for these operations, I'm gonna cover.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now moving on, then how can I add an element? I can use append function. Animals dot append of the value whatever you want to add to this list. Okay, so guys, if you remember when we were talking about functions, there will be few functions which return something and there will be functions which doesn't return anything. This append function is an example of a function which doesn't return anything. Okay, so this append function won't return anything because it will just add the value dog to the list. Okay, so animals dot append of dog. Okay, now your next question would be, boss, order is very important in list, right? Then where this new element will get added? It will get added at the end. So when you do animals, and lion, cat, elephant, and then dog, you see, dog is added at the end. Okay, like one of our participant was asking, can we add at a position uh, of our choice? Answer is yes. We'll be talking about that shortly, but answer is yes. Okay, but with append function, you'll not be able to do it. You'll have to use a different function for the same. Okay, now maybe you might ask, boss, can I add multiple values in one go? Yes, you can. Okay, so for that, you'll have to create a list with what are the values you want to add. For example, more animals is equals to, this is a list of two values, cow and duck. And then you can use this extend function to merge this list with the earlier list. Okay, so animals dot extend of more animals. Now what will happen is this list will be merged with the animals list. More animals list will be merged with animals list and you get, bigger list animals. Lion, cat, elephant, dog, cow, and then duck. Now you might ask me, boss, then what happens for more animals? Nothing will happen to more animals because you have merged more animals with animals. So animals list will get changed. Okay, it will include the values from more animals as well, but your more animals list will still be intact. Okay, maybe I'm adding more animals. Now more animals is equals to horse and pig. I'm creating this and then I'm using extend function. This horse and pig will also get added to the animals list. Now if you see lion, cat, elephant, dog, cow, duck, horse, pig, all of them part of one single list, which is animals. Okay, but more animals will still be same. Okay, and then if you do type of animals, okay. Yeah, so basically what I'm trying to make it clear here is extend function would also return nothing. Extend function would also return nothing, just like your append. Okay, so that is the reason when you do type, it's none type, but this kangaroo will be added to this list. And then I'm adding hippo as well. Now if I print animals, you'll see both of them added too, along with whatever you have. Okay. Now animals of 2 currently is elephant. And now I want to insert another element at position 3, index 2. Okay. So this is how you
Suresh,
can do it.
sorry for interrupting you. Before going to insert, I want to know what difference between extend and append. Why can't we use just append? We need to use extend.
So using append, you cannot add multiple values, Bhargav.
Oh, okay. Okay, so as you said earlier, and I also have on the road, as you said earlier here, animals extend more animals, and if you go for more animals, it's saying only horse and pig. So what is this more animal function is doing? It's
More
just
animals
taking.
is not a function. More animals is a list.
It's a variable. It's a variable. Okay.
It's a variable, correct?
Yeah, it's a variable. Yeah. Sorry about that. So this variable is taking the values and then extending the values to the animals. Is that what's happening?
More animals is doing nothing here. This extend function
Okay.
is doing. So basically, extend function is taking this more animals variable as a parameter and adding the values inside more animals list to this animals list.
Okay. So adding, so more animals is taking the values and with the extend function, it's adding to the animals.
Yes.
But those values won't be here in more animals, or those will
It
be.
won't be. It won't
It
be.
won't be. Won't be. Okay. Okay, that's what some confusing. Okay, I'll check on Google.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Only for single value we are using the append.
Correct.
For the array we are adding another array. That's why we are
It's not
using
array.
the
It's list. It's list.
list.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Now
So
moving on.
Suresh, we use
Yeah.
append, right? We can use extend also for adding one animal, right?
You can. If your list is having only one value.
Yeah. Okay. And one more
Okay.
thing, we are getting the animals here, like elements from the index. Can we get a index?
Yes, you can. I mean, you
Then
want to pass a value and then see where that particular value is there in that list. Yes, you can.
yes. Okay.
We'll talk about that. That function is also there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So moving on to the next function, it is insert, guys. So animals dot insert. I'm trying to insert this value cheetah at index 2, which is position 3. Now when I do animals of 2, you'll see cheetah. And when I print animals, you can see cheetah inserted in between cat and elephant. Okay, at index 2, position 3. Okay, so this is how you can use index. These are all the functions which you do when you want to add an element. Okay, I'm adding few more elements. I'm creating this more animals variable, which is a list variable. Okay, camel and rabbit. Now I'm trying to use append function more animals by passing more animals as a parameter to animals. And then let's see what would happen. This should clear some of your questions. Okay. Now when I do this, this is how that value would be added to this list. Okay. So a list will be added because that list would be considered as one value. That list would be considered as one value. This is the difference between another difference between append and extend. Okay, append cannot merge a list with another list, whereas extend can. Now what append will do is when you try to add a list, it will keep that as a list inside a list. Let me take a pause. Are we good?
So when you are calling this last value, it will bring a list, right? This
It
two
will
value
give a list.
list. It's not like one value like
Correct.
hippo.
Correct. So when I do animals of 11, this is the 12th element. When I do animals of 11, you'll see a list type. Okay. And maybe you want to access the values inside that list. let's do animals of 11. It will give you a list. And from this list, you can access the values using second index. When I do 0, you'll get camel. When I do 1, you'll get rabbit. Likewise. Okay. Now animals of -1 would also give you a list. And -1 of 0 will give you camel, and -1 of 1 will give you rabbit. Okay, so basically you're using two indexes because you have a list inside a list. Okay, so first index will define what value you are getting from the outer list, and the second index will be for inner list, accessing elements inside inner list. Okay, so even if I do it with a list of single value, it works in the same way. Okay, if you see, it is added as a list. It is added as a list. Okay, so animals of 12 of 0 would give you leopard. And if you do only animals of 12, you'll get a list, but with a single value. Okay, so whenever you want to add list as a list in a list, you will use append. I repeat, you want to add a list as a list in a list, then you should be using append. Okay, but you want to merge the values in a list to the existing list, you'll go for extend. Let me take a pause. Are we good?
So append will be doing sublist, a list in a sublist in a list.
It's not sublist, but yeah, for your understanding, I'll still agree.
Yeah, that's what. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you can call it list inside a list or a nested list. Okay, and then animals.pop. Again, pop is a function to delete a value. Now you might ask me, boss, which element it will delete? It will delete the last element, which is leopard. And then if you see animals, the last element is gone. And this pop element would return the removed element. Okay, if you want, you can store it in a variable too. So here I'm storing it in a rem value and calling pop again. So from this list, now it's going to remove camel and rabbit, which will be stored in this rem variable. When I do rem, no, you'll see camel and rabbit. Okay, so pop will go blindly delete the last value and then return the same value. If it is a list, it will return list. If it is a string, it will return string. If it is an integer value, it returns an integer value. Okay, it will just go remove the last value from the list. Okay, now if I'm gonna do append one more value, cat, which is already there. Now when I print it, when I print the animals, you will see cat couple of times, guys. One is at index 1, and one is at the last index. One is at last index. Okay, so here I want to show you this because I want to show you that duplicates are allowed inside a list. So cat is a duplicate value. It is there at 2 positions. Okay, but yes, list allows you to store duplicate values. Okay, now maybe you want to remove a value at a particular position. Okay, now pop you can pass an parameter to. Pop you can pass a parameter to with pop function. Now when you do pop of 2, it will go delete value from the position 3, which is index 2, and return the same value. When I do 2, there you go, it returned cheetah. Now if I do animals, you'll not see cheetah anymore. Okay. Now the next question I'm expecting from you is when there are duplicate values and when you remove a value by value, okay, remove an element by value. So whether both the values would be removed or one would be removed. Let's talk about that when we discuss when we discuss about a function which we use to remove elements by value. Okay, and then there is this important function which is length. So length of your list would give you the length, the number of values that are stored inside this list. Okay, which is 11 in this case. right? Now let me take a pause. Are we good so far?
Yes.
Can you?
Yeah, you're saying something.
I did not follow here actually.
Which one?
This the pop 2, right? And the duplicate values. I mean, when you have multiple similar values in your search.
Say for example, even though you have duplicate values, when you're removing by index, it doesn't make any problem, correct?
That's true.
Okay, but when you are trying to use a function which will delete a value by value,
Yeah.
okay, so how will it work? That's my question. Okay, so I said we'll talk about that when we discuss a function which we use for removing an element by value.
Okay.
Okay, so meanwhile you can do some exploration too, guys, on how it would function. Okay, but we'll discuss tomorrow anyway. We have that function. Okay. Now, the next concept is slicing a list. So basically, the meaning of slicing, right? You know, creating a sublist. Now, this is what I call a sublist. Creating a sublist from the existing list. Maybe you want to pick first 5 values from an existing list, or maybe last 5 values from an existing list, or maybe from third value till some 8th value from an existing list. You know, that is what we call a slicing. And we can do that by using colon operator. We can do that by using colon operator. Now, this is what we have in animals, right? Right now we have 11 values, and you know, maybe I want to print or maybe I want to create a new list from index 1 till 8. Okay, so this is how I can do it. So this is the start index and this is the end index. Okay, so cat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now you might ask me, boss, the end index is 8, right? But 8 is exclusive. Okay, meaning you know, it will not take 8, it will take till 7. Animals of 7 is pig. So you'll see up till pig. You'll not see animals of 8 here. Okay, so you'll have to remember that, guys. You know, the upper bound or the upper index, whatever you are giving, is always excluded. Okay, it will start with 1 and it will go up till 7. So that's what you're seeing over here, which I have printed. And these are two different ways of formatting your strings. Okay, which we have already discussed, but I just wanted to show. Maybe I have written here because someone might have asked a question during that time, but that's okay. Now, maybe you want to get first 2 values. This is how you can do it. 0 and 1 are what will be taken, 2 will be excluded. And if you don't specify a lower limit, by default, it will be considered as 0. And if you don't specify the upper limit, by default, it will be uh, fetching all the elements till the end. Okay, you can specify both upper bound and lower bound, and if you are not specifying any of them, the defaults will be considered. Okay, if you don't specify the lower limit, it will consider it as 0 by default, and if you don't specify the upper limit, it will continue till the last element. Okay, let me take a pause. Are we good so far?
Yeah, just confirmation. Like you were saying, this list with animals, some animals is equal to animals of 1:8. So that 1 is the element number, not the index, right?
It's index, not the element number.
Okay, so it is taking the second value. Then
Yeah, second value, which is cat. So it started from cat.
And if there is no that value 8, it will take to the last, whatever is the last.
Yes, that's correct. So for example, here we don't have the lower limit, so it went up till the last value, which is cat.
So it's all index based.
Yes.
Okay.
Can we pick a few elements from the list?
Yes, you can do that too. I'm going to show that function as well, but not using this colon operator.
Yeah, something like 2 and 3, and again 6 and 7, like that.
Yeah.
You can. There is slice function using which you can do that. Okay, but using colon, you cannot do that. Okay.
Okay.
Are we good? In fact, that is one of the important interview questions too. Okay, where they'll ask you to pick an alternate value. Okay. Now, again, are we good so far before we move into the next concept or next set of functions?
Yes.
Great. Right. So before we start with the next set of functions, I'm going to show you the current state of animals because we have added a lot of values, removed a lot of values, right? So this is what we currently have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 values we have. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you the index of a particular value by element, as somebody was asking. Now, I want to get the cat, index of cat. It is showing 1, but we also have cat at the last position as well, but it's not showing the last position. Okay, so whenever you have a value stored multiple times and you want to get the index of that particular occurrence, you can do that. So for example, by default, it will give you, this index will give you the first occurrence. When you do 2, it will give you the index of the second occurrence. If it is there, the third time you can give 3. Since we don't have it, no matter what number you give after 2, it will be only 10. Okay. Now, index of hippo will give you 9, and you're trying to get the index of something which is not there in this list, it will throw an error saying that Python is not in the list. So this is how you can find out the index of a particular element. Okay. And now looping through the list. How do we loop? You already know the syntax, which I have shown you. So this is the current state of the animals. For animal, in animals, I'm just printing animal. This animal is an iterative variable. You can give whatever you want. You can give Satya, you can give Suresh, you can give Python, doesn't matter. Okay, so in the first iteration, this animal will have the first value. In the second iteration, it will have the second value, third iteration, third value, so on and so forth. And this for loop would be iterated as many times as the number of values inside that list. Okay, so alternately, you can also use indexes to iterate. What do I mean by that? Okay, length of animals will give you 11. Range of length of animals, you know what you would get. Range of 0 to 11. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this range to iterate using for loop, and I'm printing animals of I. So in the first iteration, it's going to be animals of 0. Second iteration, it's going to be animals of 1. Third iteration, it's going to be animals of 2, so on and so forth. So basically, I'm not using the iterability feature of a list. Instead, I'm using indexes along with for loop to iterate through all the elements that are there in this list. Okay. Now, boss, in this case, we can also use while loop, right? Answer is yes. You can use while loop as well. Okay, just one moment. There you go. So index is equals to 0. Let me take it back there. Else we will leave it here. Okay, index is equals to 0. While index less than length of animals, I'm using animals of index, and then I'm just incrementing index in every iteration. Okay, now let me take a pause. Are we good so far? Iterating through all the elements in a list. Yes, no, maybe.
Yes.
Okay, so now I will introduce a new function called enumerate. Okay, so basically what this enumerate will do is it will give the index value along with the actual value. Okay, so this enumerate is also iterable, guys. Enumerate of a list is also iterable. Now we'll have to use two iterative variables. Okay, one for the actual value and one for the index. Again, this index is a variable name. You can give whatever you want. I can give Python, I can give Suresh, I can give Lakshmi, whatever it is. Okay, so it's not index is not a keyword. Okay, so the first iterative variable here, position is important. So this enumerate function, when you're iterating, the first position it will give index and second position it will give the actual value. Now I'm printing the same. Okay, so let's say I'm just changing this to positions animal and then index. Now when I run this, the values are changed. You see, at index you are getting the actual value, but at animal you are actually getting the index. Okay, so position is important, not the keywords, because they're not the keywords. Okay, so the only difference here with whatever we have done so far using for loop or iterable for loop or while loop along with this enumerate, is you are also getting an index along with your value. Okay, now let me take a pause. Are we good so far?
So basically enumerate will get the memory location of the element, right?
It's not the memory location, right? 0, 1,
Okay.
2, 3, 4. They're all indexes.
Index. Okay.
The position.
Because I was confused on that above statement enumerate animals. That's a list memory location or no?
This is list memory location, first element.
Okay, that's the list. Since it's a list, it's getting the memory location.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Okay. Now moving on. Okay, so this is an example which is asked during an interview. Okay, so when you have duplicate values, how can you fetch all the indexes where it is stored? Okay, so this is how I'm gonna do it. I'm creating an empty list index, and then my search keyword is cat. My search keyword is cat, and what I'm doing is I'm iterating through the animals list, and when my particular value is equals to the search keyword, I'm adding that index to the index list and I'm printing the index at the end with 1 and 10.
It will return two
Okay,
positions.
I repeat. So yes, it will return two positions. If you have it in somewhere else, it will return that too. So I'm creating an empty index, guys, empty list, and naming it as index. And then I'm giving my search keyword. Search keyword can be anything. It can be cat, it can be elephant, whatever the element you are planning to search. Now what I'm doing is using this for loop, I'm iterating through the list. Okay, so this animals of I would give me the respective element every time I iterate. When it is equivalent to that search keyword, then what I'm doing is I'm iterating the index value, which I'm using for the comparison to the list. This append will add that to this list. Okay, so once I'm done with this iteration of all the elements towards the end, I'm printing the index, which is 1 and 10. So this is how you can find the indexes of uh, an element which is occurring at multiple times or at multiple positions in your list. We don't have a direct function to do this. Okay, so this is kind of an application of application of this one append function. Okay, so you can do the same with this iterable approach. So here you see using range will be much easier rather than going with our iterable feature. Okay, because in iterable feature you will be able to search by value. I mean you will be able to compare by value, but you don't know the index. Okay, so you'll have to add that additional logic. I is equals to 0, and then for every iteration I'm adding value 1. Okay, and then rest of the code remains same. If you want to use a for loop without range and use the iterability feature, this is how you can implement the same logic. Okay, so sometimes we will not be choosing iterative approach if there are any use cases like this. Okay, Let me take a pause. Are we good so far?
Just a little confused on these two approaches. Can you just go back to the previous one?
Yeah.
For range.
So here I'm using range and using the indexed approach for getting a value.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't have to do additional calculation for index. Whereas here I'm using iterability feature of a list instead of using indexes, concept of indexes. Okay, so here I don't need to do animal of something. Okay, so this animal itself will have a value. Since we are not using the index concept here, so to maintain the index or to get the position, I'm using this logic where I have created an index variable I is equals to 0 and then incremented it for every iteration. Make sense?
Yeah, got it.
Suresh, can you explain more about animal in the first statement? I didn't get it.
Which one?
In the first statement where you are seeing right now,
This
I
one?
can't able to, yeah. Oh, well, you didn't declare animal in the previous one.
I
Where
don't
is,
need to write. It's an
yeah,
iterative
what's
variable.
animal doing? Okay.
It's an iterative variable. So do you declare iterative variables? Answer is no.
Okay. But earlier you did I is equal to 0 and that's iterative variable. No, then
I
that's
never did. I never did.
okay.
So do you see I is equals to 0 anywhere here?
No.
We
No,
don't declare iterative variables, Bhargav.
yeah, I'm getting confused about animal keyword in the letter code.
If you don't like animal, you give I. Who is stopping you?
Okay.
And this I doesn't take integer values. Okay, maybe I could be, I already have used. Maybe I'll use element.
Okay.
Element.
It's just iterative variable. That's
It's
it.
just an
Okay.
iterative variable. That's it.
Okay.
1 and 10. You
Okay.
still get the same output.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
But just that I always encourage people to use proper naming convention. I have given animal.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, Suresh.
no problem.
I
Okay,
just forgot, or I might have missed it. It's not a case dependent, right? This
it is case dependent. It is case sensitive.
case sensitive. Okay.
It is case sensitive. Python is case sensitive.
Okay.
Okay. Now moving on. One last example, guys. Okay. So we have this animals list, right? Or else I think we have already crossed the time. Okay, no worries. We'll discuss it tomorrow, guys. Anyway, we'll be continuing with lists only tomorrow. There are a lot of functions to talk about. Okay, so we'll continue tomorrow. Thank you all. See you tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.